Hey, what's up, guys? John here from the REI Contractor Show and Blackjack Contracting. Matt and I brainstormed this little idea here. It's going to be a little bit of a long one. We're going to time lapse it for you, but I'm going to record the process I go through to estimate a duplex conversion. I'd say on typical average, it takes me about 4 to 6 hours if all in. I've already been to site. This job's out in Peterborough, Ontario. So I went to site last week. I made myself a recording. I've received a set of drawings. And now what I do is I go through the process of a takeoff. And then we start typing up the estimate. I hope you guys enjoy. It's a little bit of insights you're not going to see too often. And we'll see what happens. We'll see. Look forward to you guys watching. And let me know if you have any questions. Enjoy. Okay, guys, so the first step in an estimating process is obviously receiving the drawings for me. And for me, for a duplex conversion, we'll always need one site visit just to analyze the current conditions. So now we've done all that. We're down at the office here. It's a nice Saturday. It's peaceful. I shouldn't have too many calls interrupt me, which is one of the harder facts during the week. It's just you got everything else going on. So even though I'd rather not be working Saturday, but sometimes this is the best time to get things done. So I have a program called Build Exact. It does multiple things, but I only use it for its takeoff capabilities because it's a point and click system, which I'm about to show you. So for first step is I'm going to upload the drawings into the system here. I'm just going to move my screen around sometimes. So I'm going to create a new estimate. Now, I don't go too crazy into this stuff just because I use a different system for the actual estimate. So I'm just going to give you a quick description. And we're just going to call it by its address. Okay, so now that the plans have uploaded, we have to scale them. Just because drawings come in different measurements, so we have to make sure our point and click system is doing the same measurements the drawings were designed in. So I'll press confirm. We want to find the main page with the drawing. Now this is the basement floor plan. So what we're going to do here, and I'm not sure, to be honest with you, what the X is about. Someone never seen the drawings before. I'm just going to keep playing here till I find the ones I want to use. I'm going to go back to the page 2. Okay, so I'll scroll it to make it myself bigger here. And we're going to take a line. We're going to find the easiest line with a simple measurement. Okay, so what I've done here is I've taken out typed out the measurements that I want to capture off the drawings. So each one is done in its own measurement. Most of them are by square foot, some are by the linear foot, and some is each. So we're just going to do framing together first to give you the idea of how it works. So I'm going to take to the takeoff tool here and find the drawing that we're measuring. Okay, so this is our drawing. This basement is being completely redone. Nice thing about this basement, it's an old building. It's a two-story. But this basement has 10-foot ceilings, which is awesome because it's going to make a beautiful ceiling. Because we're even going to drop this ceiling down to hide all the mechanical, so it's going to be a pretty even surface. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure the wall framing. So when you have a wall, we're using the line tool here. So it's pretty cool. I'm just going to click on the first corner, drag it to the next corner. So we know that this wall is 36 feet 1 inch long. So I'll do all the outside walls first. All right, so we know that the total outside perimeter is 112.4 linear feet long, so then we have to do the interior walls. So we only have to do the one side of the wall once. We don't have to do both sides because otherwise that'd be counting for double the lumber. This wall right here, we can go all the way across to this load point here. And then we'll do the closet. Now the closet, we do have to do the framing because of all the framing above. All right, so now you can see interior and exterior walls equal 218 linear feet of framing. This is just a little cheat method here because it does not show on the drawings. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to texture a line from one side to the other. And what that does, that lumber is going to account for the bulkheads for the HVAC. Even though it's showing as a linear wall, 8 feet lumber, because you're going to have two sides, it'll eat up the lumber. So once I'm happy with the framing measurement here, I'm going to click accept and save. Then we're going to go on to the next thing. So I'm going to show you the sound insulation because it's a different type of measurement. So I'm going to go to my takeoff tool again. This one's going to be done in square feet. All right. So this designer has decided to show a utility room that's not fire rated. I'm going to change it because otherwise I have to do the ceiling, which is quite challenging. So when you're fire rating a utility room, the walls get fire rated, including a door. So what I'm going to do is I need to capture all this in here. That's the insulation that goes inside the fire ring. So I'm going to click wall, and I know I have 10-foot ceiling, so I'm going to make it 10-foot height. And what I do is I just drag around this room here. I do not have to do the foundation wall. So I know I have 188 square feet of insulation to go around this walls. Then I'm going to go to the polygon, which is going to capture the ceiling. I said I'm doing the walls here, so I'm not doing the ceiling, so I'm going to skip that. So I just take my polygon, drag it across. I'm going to skip the furnace room. And voila, I'm done. So I know that I need 863 square feet of sound absorbent insulation. That gives you the basic idea of how I'm going to calculate this whole thing. So I'll go through it. So now I'm doing half-inch drywall, which is going to be used on exterior and interior walls that are not fire rated. Now, other than the framing thing, I do have to count both sides of the walls when I do this. Okay, so now that I've done the half-inch drywall, we're going to do a calculator here because there's always wastage when it comes to drywall, and it's usually about 10%, so we're going to go 10% wastage. Click it accept, and it's going to do the wastage for you so I know how much drywall I need to order. And we'll do the same thing for the 5/8. Because I'm choosing to rate the furnace room walls instead of the furnace, there's going to be a different assembly here. So there's going to be 2 layers on one side and 1 layer on the inside. Okay, so now I'm doing the interior doors. So I have each tool on, so I just point and click. So I have 2 doors here, 1, 2. This one I'm changing to a fire door, so we're just going to go click, 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 click. So I know now I have 9 interior doors to count for. I know I only need 1 fire door. And I'm going to count the window space. So now I'm trying to calculate casing. So for around windows and doors, doors are always 35 feet per opening, and windows we average out about 25 feet in opening. So that's 4 sides. Now for the door, it's going to be both sides, 17 feet aside with a little bit of waste. So I'm not going to actually use the point and click here. So now I know I have 1, 2, 3, 4 windows. Sorry, 5 windows. 5 windows, 25 feet is going to be 125. Now I know that I have 1 fire door, 9 interior doors, so we're at 10, plus an exterior, so I have 11 doors. 11 times 35, which is, I don't feel like doing math today, 385, plus 5 window openings at 125. We know we have 510 linear feet of casing. Baseboard and shoe measurements, a little more of a challenge. We have this point and click tool we're going to use, but it's a lot of clicking, so bear with me. Okay, so you can see that I did all the clicking there. This one's the most pain in the butt part about the whole process. We've come up with 234 linear feet of baseboard and shoe. That was the tough one, so we move on to the next. Okay, so we have pretty much done our takeoff here. These are the key measurements I need to know to start producing the estimate. Now, this only starts to tell you one part of the story. There's a little bit you can't really get off drawings, the existing conditions. This house has had a lot of work done to its previous 2 floors, so there is some messy work in the basement that was done by previous people that have to be cleaned up before we can go on to our part. So I don't ever recommend just trusting a pair of drawings to produce an estimate. I think that's where problems could lead to, and as I talked about in the other videos, we want to try to avoid problems, contractor relationship the whole time. Make sure you get a site visit. Make sure you identify problems so that you can estimate repairs with them so that the homeowners or the investor is not going to be surprised by additional work, because no one likes that. Other contractors out there, make sure you do your due diligence. Give them an all-in-one price. Don't try to hit them up at the end because you forgot this, you forgot that, because no one likes that, and that's how bad situations come arise, and we should have happy customers and happy contractors. So now that we've done this stage right here, we're going to start moving on to the actual estimating process. Stay tuned. So I got my takeoff over here, and then we're going to start typing out the estimate here. So I have a little bit of a template built for myself because I do a lot of the same type of projects. I'm actually coming up with a new system right now that's going to make it even easier to allow customers to actually pick and upgrades without me being involved, just from the computer. You can take a look at it. It's going to be pretty cool. I should hope to have it running in the next couple of weeks, but for now, this is what we're using. So basically, we're going to, this is Notify. I showed you guys Notify with the last video. For people who haven't seen it, this is a contractor financial system and helps run projects a little bit. So this is where I'm going to actually build out the estimate, and this is where the customer will be sent to the customer by. So first thing I'm going to do is just type name the project. So I'm going to name it by its street name. Okay, so I'm going to use a template here. I'm going to use it from a previous project that I built that has most of the stages that I need, and I just apply the template. Now it's bringing up numbers from a previous project here, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But basically, this is how we do an estimate. All we're building out right now is costs, not what we're charging the customer. We're just what we believe our costs are going to be. So this basement is pretty much demoed. We're going to have a little bit of demo throughout the project, and you're going to have the waste. So I think I'm only going to need 1 bin for the project, and I know it's going to cost me $490. Disposables, I'm just going to put in 2 of them throughout the project. That is bags, products, all that fun stuff. And this is disposal fees, so when you don't have a bin, we're just going to be dropping it off the dump, that kind of thing. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I think I'm going to dedicate about 16 hours to it based on what I've experienced. Unfortunately, some of it is a guessing game. You do your best. I'm going to dedicate 16 hours. So I know my cost for demo and disposal for this project are going to be around $1,140. So then we go to framing and structure. So now these are, as you can see here, I've got pre-typed in materials, and then I do my labor down here. So I know that I have framing 254 feet of wall here. Typically, it's about a stud per wall, but you still have to do back framing and bulkheads like that. So I believe I'm going to need 296, which is a lift to 2x4s. Unfortunately, the price of 2x4s are $8 a piece right now, so I need to adjust that. And I always account for a few 2x6s for repairs and stuff like that, but I don't think I'm going to need many here. Vapor barrier for the floor, Tyvek for the walls. I'm going to need 2 rolls of that. ram sets and screws. We know we're going to need that, and then we have to add the drywall for the fire separation. There is a little bit of structure to fix here. It's not going to cost $15. I'm going to allow for $500 for that material. And then labor. Labor is always one that you're going to have to kind of guess. There is a little bit of formula. There is some repairs to do this one, so it's going to be a two-person job. So I'm going to allow for 60 hours of carpenter time and 8 hours of labor time just for repairs and loading. So now I know my cost on framing should be around $6,800. So we're gonna be happy with that. And then just because this program can get silly, I'm just gonna save change everyone so I don't lose anything. And now we're going to our HVAC roughing. So this is where you have to lead on your trades. I've already spoken to my contractor about the cost on this job. So we're going to be relocating the furnace a little bit. We're going to be doing some ductwork repairs, venting. So he told me his budget for the project is going to be, for the roughing phase, is going to be about the $6,000 mark. Plumbing roughing. Plumbing could be an interesting one to estimate. A lot of guys will go buy the fixture. And so I'm going to talk again. I'm going to call out my plumber and I'm going to figure out what I need to do here. And this number right here is actually what we're going to allow for the rough end. Electrical on this one has been done on the upstairs. So we're going to be changing the meter system here, which is another line item. We're just going to be budgeting the rough end. The one thing that we have to remember on this is that we have to add the smoke detector system, so I'll be dealing with that. I cheat on this one, obviously, because I own the electrical contractor. Fair warning, right? So I can do this one myself. Okay, so now that I've reached the installation stage, this is where I start getting my numbers involved here. So I have R22 insulation, which is the outside insulation. I know I need 961 feet, so 961. The resilient channel, I've had to do a manual measurement on that, so we need about 70 pieces. The rock wool, which is the sound insulation, we know we need 863. Vapor barrier, I need 2 rolls. 3 rolls of tuck tape. And then labor. So this one right here, I'm actually going to take off labor because I know I'm going to be using a subcontractor on that one. Subcontractors usually charge me about 40 cents a square foot. So I do the math on this. I got 961 plus 863. So I have 1,824 square feet of insulation. So I'm going to times that by 40 cents. That gives me $729.60. Then we pay them a couple $100 to install the resilient channel. So I'm going to budget $1,000 for a subcontractor to install the insulation and vapor barrier. And then I'm going to take off the labor budget, so I just got to make sure I subtract it here. And then I know my budget material is $2,700. Basically the same process for drywall. So now I've done all the internal costs. So as you can see right here, my cost on this project is going to be about just under $78,000, which gives me a breakdown of $20,000 plus in materials, $9,700 in labor, and $47,000 in subcontractor costs. So now after we've done all that, I no longer need this section right here, so I'm just going to go full screen right here. And I'm going to create a proposal. I'm going to use my project plans. Okay. So I know I have costs right here, and this is where I'm going to add my markup and profit. As I said in the last video, the markup range is 38% gross profit, which covers 25% gross margin for overhead expense and 13% overhead gross margin for net profit. So all I do is go right here and then I'm going to mark it at 62%, which is the same as 68% gross margin, and I'm going to apply the same markup for all the same items. So now, as you can go right here, this is now giving me a breakdown. I'm going to charge the customer $126,000 plus the taxes. And that allows me to cover all my overhead expenses and make a 12% net profit, 13% net profit. So now that I've done all these numbers right here, now I have to type in the scope of work. And so I built out some things, but I need to change them because each project's type of different. And then I'm going to add my contract terms and payment schedule so the customer can review. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to type in all the details, and then I'll get typing that, and then I'll bring you back when it's time to show you the official estimate. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. I was actually talking to the customer there, and he actually was talking about the scope of work because there was a couple things I wasn't clear of, and he made me inform that he's actually doing his own kitchens installs because he's got a guy that he likes to use, and a few minor changes. So it's brought down the price quite a bit. So now we're down to $114 plus our taxes. So it's better. So as I said before, right before the break, there is now I start typing in the scope of work. I've typed out most of this for the previous job. We just have to make any sort of changes. Like for a good example, we'll go to that kitchen. Since he's going to be installing his own kitchen, we're going to take it off the scope of work, obviously. So instead of interior, what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this out. And I'm going to make sure that I note it in the contract that I'm not responsible for it so it doesn't lead to future problems or misleading anything. And this is one of the bigger lessons I like to teach, is that we want to make sure what's written on this proposal and contract is as clear as possible. So if the customer's responsible, but am I responsible for doing the backsplash? In this case, Sam, so I'm going to note that. I'm going to supply the material for the backsplash, but the kitchen supply and install is going to be on the customer. Note it on the drawings. That way there's no misunderstanding. If you take the time at this stage in the game to really get this clear, it should prevent from any problems happening along on the job site. Okay, so we're pretty much done with our estimate here. Now, I have a template. I cheated this one. I wanted to make it as quick as possible to show everybody the process. Sometimes there's a little bit more, sometimes there's a little bit less. It really depends on the scope of the Warja project. We are just working on the basement here, which makes it easy. Sometimes, most of the time, we're doing like a duplex conversion. We're going to have to incorporate all the upstairs work as well. This one is strictly a basement, so that's great. Makes it easier for us. This is not a typical bungalow project. There's some other conditions that drive up the price a little bit because of existing conditions, a little bit of a structure issue. People did the upstore reno, kind of did a sloppy job in the basement because they weren't considering the next part, so it drives up it a little bit, but we'll get it taken care of. So this is what it's going to look like for the customer. We got the proposal, all the language that we just typed here, and then it goes down to the bottom. So as I said before in our previous videos, you really want it to lay out the scope of work to make sure what's included so there's no conditions. We want to make sure the price is clear. We want to make sure that the payment terms are clear, and then the contract language. So once if the customer's happy with this quote, what happens? We both sign off on it here and it becomes an active contract. This is now the Bible for the rest of the job. What's included, what's written down here is what gets done. If the customer wants more, they have to pay more. If the contractor must fulfill what he's promised here. Now, one thing you always hear about an argument between the parties is like timelines. So if there's some sort of timeline guarantee that the contractor has given you, it should be written down, should be part of this package. I don't really recommend that because if there's unforeseen things or the customer add things, just remember if you add anything to the project, that original timeline goes out the window. When a change order is done, it should state how much long it'll extend this project so you know whether to agree to that or not. And so at this point now, I've done this is I'm going to send this out to the customer. And usually on a project like this, there's going to be questions. So I prefer to hop on a Zoom call with the customer whenever possible and go through it. That way, if there was any misunderstandings, we can sort it out right in there and explain it. If I can't get on a Zoom call, what I'll do is I'm using a Loom service to record this video right now. I'll record myself reading out the contract next to the drawings, make sure it's clear as mud. We don't want any misconceptions because I don't want to deal with the hassle any more than you do of having any disagreements, and that's why I think this is important. And make sure that if you're hiring contractors anywhere, you're kind of doing the same process. You really want to be on the same page. You do not want to get into a situation where at the end you disagree on the scope. Or I've heard that 3 times this week, and it's really sad. It doesn't need to be this way. Problem is everybody's busy and they don't put the effort into this part. This is the important part, to be honest with you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Kind of gives you an insight on how to price things. Now, I know a lot of questions I get is in the field, how do I tell when I'm here? Unfortunately, this takes a little bit of experience, but you do a couple of these things, you should be able to get the hand, pay attention to the numbers you're receiving. If you're getting multiple bids on a project, really compare scope of works to make your informed decision. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll be using this on my own channel, and I'll be giving this to Matt McKeever, and I hope Matt McKeever's fans really enjoy this stuff. We're going to be timeline or fast playing some of this stuff just because it's an hour long, obviously. I've paused this a bunch of times to do things. And as I said before, total estimating time on a project is usually about 4 to 6 hours if you include the site visits and all the stuff that goes into it, going back and forth with drawings. Now that I've said that, one favor I could ask you is as you can see, it's a lot of work for this. That doesn't mean I'm going to get this job, right? I do these, all the time. Don't waste contractors' time any more than you want your time wasted, because it's a lot of work. It's here Saturday. I could be home with my kids, but this is my job, right? But so don't waste time if you're not serious about the guy. That's just a favor I'm going to ask you guys, and hopefully you get the same respect in return. Thanks for watching, guys. Really enjoy. Please reach out if you got questions about this stuff, and I'm going to keep going on what it's like to be a contractor, especially in the REI world. And I think I'm going to do a little series about life in a contractor just to see what it's all about. It's fun. So I enjoy it. It's my passion. So I like sharing with you guys. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.